In this video, we're making predictions for chapter 986 onwards. It's going to be fun, so let's get to it. Chapter 985 was fantastic. A lot of it was unexpected. Just when I thought I was guessing a good chunk of the parts of the story, I get blindsided by the events in that chapter. The most shocking part for me was that Nami and Carrot got caught. The way Big Mom was walking, I thought she was just out for a stroll in the park, so I didn't really expect her to catch up to Nami and the others. And I always thought that Sanji would show up to save Nami because he always has been able to help women that are in trouble. And I'm guessing that Sanji's priority right now is his quest for hookers. I'm actually really excited to see his reaction when he sees Yamato. Because Yamato might identify as a man, but Sanji is still Sanji. I think that the minute he sees Yamato, he might just drool over the floor. I also thought that Shinobu, Nami, and Carrot would be able to mix in with the crowd before Big Mom even gets close to them. So I would love to see how it all went down between Big Mom and Nami's group. Hopefully, we get a bit of a flashback on the next chapter. Because I'm really curious why we didn't see Shinobu. And I have my doubts if she would actually betray the Kozuki just because she already betrayed Orochi to somewhat aid Oden and the other scabbards. I doubt that she would go back and forth like that, but whatever the case may be, I'm excited to know more about it. I think that with Luffy rushing in, it would probably take the full attention of Big Mom because she still holds a grudge against Luffy, leaving Kaido, the All-Stars, and the Tobiropo to be dealt with. Even if Oda decides to do some creative storytelling to delay Luffy from fighting again, Luffy will have his hands full whether he takes on Kaido, Big Mom, the All-Stars, or the Tobiropo. Now, whatever the case, I'm actually hoping that Luffy rushes in the middle of the whole event just to interrupt Kaido's announcement and possibly yell at him while he's being surrounded by the gifters, the headliners, the Tobiropo, and Big Mom, along with Yamato, of course. Now, I believe that it's going to be a badass entrance, like Luffy usually gets. So I do hope the epic storytelling continues. I think it's too reckless if Oda decides to have Luffy go straight for Kaido and try to fight him, especially with all the monsters beside him. It would be a great distraction, but in my mind, it's very unlikely to happen. Personally, I think that Big Mom goes right at Luffy once she sees him. And I do hope that we get a Conqueror's Haki clash, and that this would end up interrupting Kaido's speech. That would be so epic. Now, if Big Mom and Luffy do square off, it will leave Kaido and the All-Stars, as well as the Tobiropo, to be dealt with. I don't think that Denjiro, Kinemon, Chushilyan, Hyogoro, Robin, and Jinbei would be able to deal with all those powerhouses alone, which is why they would need some help, and this makes it seem like a good time for Kid to be making a scene. And I hope that he's still fighting with Apu, because I really want Kid to get his revenge so bad. A little bit of redemption will go a long way. But to be frank, I'm not even sure how strong Kid is and how relevant he is to the story right now. So I'm placing him in the level of the Tobiropo and not yet Yonko Commander level as of right now. Just because we haven't seen him fight enough to scale him properly or pretty accurately. It would be awesome to see him fight for an extended period, especially against Apu, because we would be able to scale them both and we get a better idea for where they stack up against Luffy and the other notable pirates in the One Piece world. For Killer, I'd like to see him take on Hawkins, because they're both swordsmen and are both part of the worst generation as well. I think that Hawkins makes for an interesting fight, but for Killer though, not too much. But knowing Oda, he will definitely build this up from where it's not too exciting to the point where it's mind-blowingly awesome. But anyway, I feel like Usopp and Chopper will charge in with the Brachio tank and clear a lot of fodder along the way. And I'm curious to see how Frankie and Brook are doing because we still haven't seen those two and it feels like it's been a very long while since we did. I'm glad that One Piece isn't on break this week, But going back though, it might be about time we saw Brooke and Frankie. They were heading for the back of the island, so it's possible that we get to see them tag along with the scabbards that are taking on Kanjuro's squad. I know Frankie mentioned that they were supposed to meet up with Chopper and Usopp and park the vehicles at the back, but with Big Mom's interruption, Usopp and Chopper might not do that because if they still try to rendezvous with Frankie and Brooke, they could be too late to help out on the rescue operation for Momonosuke. So I do think they'll be rushing towards the main hall to back everybody up. I think this way because with Luffy making a scene and Big Mom confronting him, I think that Usopp should feel if Luffy starts clashing with Big Mom because of his observation hockey, with or without the always epic how Shoku clashes. Hopefully with, of course. But then again, I'm a bit more optimistic since Orochi has been chopped off, because I don't think Kaido would instantly try to finish Momonosuke off. And speaking of Orochi, yes, I'm with the community and I do believe that he's still alive because of his Yamata no Orochi. It's a mythical devil fruit which is a model of the Heavy Heavy no Mi. I think it's a bit awkward if Orochi was just killed like that, and I don't think that the community would be too happy with that ending to Orochi. And I always thought that Hiyori had foreshadowed that she would end up dealing the final blow to Orochi. But you never know. It might play out fine for the story if Oda gives a pretty rich backstory to Kaido's decision to try and remove Orochi from the picture. I know Oda hates it when fans predict what happens next, so I'm very open to the possibility that Orochi could stay dead. I would prefer that Oda revive him in some way, hopefully later on in the story where it's less predictable, so it could be a win for Oda and for the fans. For me personally, I would just like to be entertained. I was really surprised to see that happen in the first place because I really wasn't expecting it. And I think that even Orochi himself would be surprised after getting his head chopped off. It would be very weird if his body just straight up stands, walks towards his head and puts it back on. So so I think that I think that he'd grow another head like a Hydra does. Because in his Yamato no Orochi form, he grew more heads, so I'm definitely expecting it to happen like that. Orochi would possibly be surprised that he's still alive. It might be the first time he got chopped like that. He could take a minute to possibly gather himself a bit, because he could have easily died. If Kaido just used more force, a bit of hockey, or Ryuo, or used a different stroke or a move, and after that, then he could do whatever he could to get his revenge on Kaido for his betrayal or for his decision to do that. And really, I don't think Orochi Samurai would be thrilled at the idea of having to follow Orochi again because basically everybody he tells the Kozuki prophecy to just shrugs, laughs it off, and thinks of him as a crazy dude that clings to the idea of a ghost story coming true after 20 years. How paranoid is that, right? But moving on, we also have the Scabbards that are fighting with Kanjuro. In chapter 985, we see blood dripping from a sword, and it was being made to look like Kiku had already dealt with Kanjuro and was crying for having to slash up her former nakama. Kanjuro should be reasonably strong, considering he was still a retainer for the Kozuki, and the fights and experience he gained throughout all those years of being with them should have sharpened his skills. So this might need more clarification, which we might end up seeing on the next chapter. We haven't seen Law in action just yet, and I don't ever recall reading where Law was supposed to be or supposed to go during this whole operation. Could he be meeting up with Hawkins? I don't know. But what I do remember is Law mentioned before, back in Dressrosa, when he was alone with Doflamingo, that he thinks his alliance with the Straw Hats had ended there. I know that he's still cooperating and went with the Straw Hats to Zou and now to Wano. But I think that this is more because of Luffy defeating Doflamingo and Law is now repaying the Straw Hats pack. I'm not too sure about what side Law is on right now, but I'd like to see if my previous guess that Law, Kid, and Luffy would actually team up and ally themselves together like it was foreshadowed back in Sabaudi. But I really think that it's more probable that Law had already achieved his mission of getting back at Doflamingo and is now just living for himself. I think that he will eventually ally himself with Luffy, and Kid would continue to be rivals with Luffy for the throne. Anyway, if he does meet with Hawkins, I'm expecting him to join the alliance and betray Kaido. I think that this would be the best scenario for Hawkins. On the last panel of the chapter 985, in the translation I've read, it was written there that the gifters were looking for the Tobiropo when they saw Yamato. Sasaki is tied up right now, and he might be found there outside, and if he's lucky enough, someone might be able to get him untied. Drake is still missing right now, and is probably making reports to whoever is the head of Sword, or to Kobe. I have my theories on this, but we'll discuss that on a separate video. On the other hand, Who's Who was looking for Yamato so he could get a chance to become an all-star. He also knows that Queen wants to take out a member of the Tobiropo, and he mentions that he also wants to do the same. He wants to take out a member of the All-Stars. This makes for a very fun speculation, and I definitely have quite a few scenarios that play out in my mind about this. I think that Who's Who is really after Queen. After all, there are a lot of Conqueror's Haki users in Kaido's crew, and we all know that they get sent to Udon until they decide to join Kaido's crew. So chances are, all the prisoners in Wano have been tortured by Queen, and Who's Who might be out to get Queen, while Queen is out to get Drake. Because the All-Stars and Kaido might probably know, because the All-Stars and Kaido might already know that Drake is a spy for Sword or the Marines. Ulti was left behind when Page 1 took off to chase Luffy and Yamato. And Ulti and Page 1 should end up cornering Luffy and Yamato after all. We didn't see Black Marie in this current chapter, but we know that back in chapter 984 that she was with Kaido and the All-Stars. If Luffy and Yamato get confronted, I don't think that Black Maria would do anything yet, because I think that this is in her personality. I feel that she's pretty good nature herself, and would rather stay beside Kaido at the moment. Moving on though, Zoro should get lost and find himself in the middle of the action. Sanji is still in his side quest to find some hookers, and probably is looking for a power-up there. But I really expect him to aid Nami and Carrot in some way. Since Robin and Jinbe are there, they would probably make sure that nothing happens to Nami and Carrot, especially since Luffy is taking center stage, so all of the attention will be on him. I think that on the next chapter, we're going to see Marco scouting out the shadow that he saw back in the area, and I do think that it's going to be Perospero or Drake. Hopefully he doesn't deal with either one of them right there and then, because I want Perospero to fight with Carrot and Drake with Frankie. So, this wraps up this short predictions video for the chapter 986 of the One Piece manga. And I'm really hoping for an epic next chapter to continue 985's awesome pacing and surprising events. Please do crush like on the video and comment down below what you think about Sanji's attempts to find hookers. If you love One Piece, subscribe to the channel because on the next episode, we're talking about the Ace in Kaido's crew. It's going to be a fun conversation, so don't miss it. As always, stay safe. Peace.